advocating for AI in the workplace. It's a bit of a guide to kind of not drag your employees and your colleagues forward, or even yourself. It's more about, gently nudging people forward without terrifying them about having to learn new things, or perhaps they might be a bit afraid of, having to, perhaps train AI to take over their job one day, or the uprising of the robots, or the Terminator movies, or something like that. Everyone's got their fears about this. Everyone's got some reasonable fears about it as well. Let's kind of look at how you, as the advocate in your workplace, could be the one who helps bring these things forward gently. Okay, the AI tension we're all feeling is, well, it's very quick. This thing has arrived very quickly. It was only November 2022 when this first arrived in the form of ChatGPT's first release, which means we haven't had a lot of time to get used to this. It's faster than our policies can keep up. It's faster than our HR can keep up. It's faster than our comfort levels can pick up. And yeah, it's probably faster than what a lot of our skill sets have been, to be honest. And through all this is kind of two big shouty voices that are going on. On one side, the people who say, lock it down, don't let it in, like all the universities did originally. And then there's the use it for everything crowd. Now, I've sat in that second crowd a fair bit in the past, although really I'm more towards the middle now. And most people are very stuck in this middle part. They're very unsure about what they're allowed to do, what they can do, what is useful, what is safe, what is ethical, what is unethical, what's illegal, even. So this guide's not about picking sides. I'm not saying you need to be the outgoing advocate for everything in AI. I'm not saying you should be the shut it down IT security person either. There's a messy middle there. And that's where most of us exist. And that's where the challenge is going to be, how to work with the messy middle in your workplace or business. So the two extremes, let's look at them. The brake slammers tend to be very about security, about ethics. They're all about, I had to look at the risk first, but no going and doing anything first, and always answering no. Like the answer is just straight out no. IT departments kind of fit into this because that's their job, is to protect the business from cybersecurity problems. The default response tends to be banning tools, banning this, banning that, restricting use of everything, forcing everybody into Copilot because the one tool that someone signed off on. The result is that people are using what we call shadow AI. And that means that people are using their own ChatGPT account, their own Claude account, their own Gemini account, accessing those using work computers or even on their own computers or mobile devices. And it's forcing a lot of workarounds that are just not efficient, but beyond not efficient, they could be a little dangerous as well, which then means there's a loss of trust in AI all up because someone is bound to mess something up. And when they do, that's when the IT heroes come forward and say, this is what we told you. This is what we warned you about. So that's the extreme one side. The extreme other side is the accelerators, like I've tended to be in the past, which is, let's just work it out later. Let's just use it. Let's just let it rip. It sounds familiar from the pandemic, right? Those who are like, shut it down, shut it down. The rest of us going, let it rip, let it rip. And somewhere in the messy middle was the truth. These people are all about the productivity. Oh my goodness, the productivity. I'm going to save 6 hours on this and 2 hours on that. And I'm going to be able to automate this, and this. What happens though is that there's a panic about compliance because these people are just jumping way ahead and using tools that haven't been approved. They are risking reputation of the company if things aren't accurate or aren't brand safe. And so there tends to be a backlash. So when the accelerators go, let's go, let it rip, there's going to be this backlash from the people on the brake slammer side and also the people who are in the messy middle who just feel like they're being pushed into something that they don't really even understand. Neither one of these extremes is where you need to live. This is not what's going to survive the long term. I've got friends who are massive AI accelerators and they post about introducing tools and they are so cool. They're so into this stuff. Then they've got friends who are in IT who just want to slam on the brakes every time. None of these positions are going to survive because the messy middle exists. And this is the position we really need. It's where AI, yes, is already being used, whether it's approved or not. And risk does exist, both with and without AI. There's already risk there. The value comes from a much more intentional, maybe even planned and very transparent adoption. This means that we're not sort of sneaking in our mobile devices and running our own AIs on them, or we're not just getting around the work systems and trying to install ChatGPT access. Or what we do as advocates, and I do this quite a lot these days, is help organizations to move forward safely without the shutdown and slam on the brakes, because that's not going to work either. Now, does it mean that means, oh, great, everyone gets ChatGPT? No, not necessarily. There are many tools and many security concerns. And the idea that, oh, yes, Copilot's safe and the others aren't is not true at all. Exactly not true at all, because they both use very similar technologies. It's about helping those organizations move gently into this, not slow, just gently. And a lot of that's to do with the way you frame the way AI comes into that organization. So what we do, we start with trust, not tech. We're not going, here's a tool, here's a tool, here's a tool, here's a tool. Oh my God, it's amazing. Everything's going to happen faster and going to be easier. And those who ignore it are going to be left behind. None of that. We're not doing any of that talk. And that's where most AI conversations go really wrong. We go, hey, here's ChatGPT. Let's generate some nano banana images. Let's go to Sora and generate some videos and VO3 and Runway. And what they tend to ignore when we go on like that kind of power is that we ignore the fear that's already there, the uncertainty in people's minds, and also what the established status quo or the established power dynamics or structures or hierarchies are that are already in a company where IT structures are being set up: infrastructure, management, risk. And then we've got management structures of supervisors and managers and directors and people that want to have some kind of say in what gets there. What this trust first framing does is it asks first, well, we want people to do their best work, right? And we trust our staff to act responsibly. So let's all learn together and not punish people experimenting. But let's do it in a way that's safe. So we talk about what the outcomes and the behaviors are before we start going, choose this, choose this, choose this, because that changes every week. Like the top dog, Gemini is looking pretty good, but in the last month, Claude has been the one that everyone's going, oh my God, it's amazing, it's amazing. But then ChatGPT will do a new release and Copilot do a new release. And then we've got artifacts and we've got projects, and there's always something new. So it's not really going to be ever a case where there's one tool over the other. It's more of a case of, what do people want to use? What have we got access to already that's not going to cost us a fortune? What do we do rather than just going, let's lock it down, lock it down? How do we work with people about how they're going to use it and what they want to use it for? And then what their behaviors of use are going to be like. What is safe usage? What is appropriate usage? What are things we can do? I was just in a workshop just earlier this morning, and they were talking about how AI generated images are completely out. They completely banned them. And then we started talking about a bit of nuance in that. Is it AI generated photographs or AI generated art or AI generated line drawings? And we kind of came to the conclusion, yeah, it was AI generated art and AI generated photography. So they said that they don't feel comfortable about the ethics of that, but a line drawing or a squiggle or something like that, or even an infographic, they were completely fine with that. So what we're talking about, what is the outcome you want to get? And what are the behaviors that lead there? Okay, our outcome is we want some great illustrations, but we don't want to have to go and draw all this stuff ourselves. Great. What are the behaviors you're going to get there? The behaviors are, we put a policy in place: no photography, no art. What we're going to do is line drawings, cartoons, and textures, something that feels like it's a little bit safe. Now, what happens is, of course, some people go beyond that and then they'll bring it back and they go, oh, that's right, I need to do this in a line drawing or a cartoon. And so they bring that back. And what we do, trusting people to do that, let them make the mistakes, but give them also a way to have things checked. So they go, hey, I'm about to deliver this workshop in the next 2 days. Can you just run your eyes over this to make sure I'm compliant? That person comes back and says, yes, you've done this, except for this one slide where you've used a photography which looks like AI. And they go, oh, good, I thought I'd replace that. So it's like the second set of eyes. The behavior in there isn't policing, it's a second set of eyes. Sometimes in a team, you might have an AI advocate, someone who looks over the AI generated work and makes sure it's brand safe, security safe, and fits with the overall guides of that team and that company. Now, where we need to reframe the introduction of AI to our teams is that we don't reintroduce it as this is going to replace you, it's going to do all your work for you, because that will just terrify everybody and they won't take on anything. It's the thinking partner, it's the brainstorm partner. It doesn't replace you because it needs you to put entries in. It's a collaborator in your workflow. It's like a silent buddy who you can check things against to go, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, is this an idea? What have I missed? One of the greatest questions you can ask on a piece of work you've done, load it into something and say, what have I missed in this? Even Copilot, as crappy as it tends to be, is really good at doing that. You've written a document and you go, hey, can you check over this to see what I've missed or what I might need to consider? It's very good at that. It'll look at and go to many different options and go, hey, have you thought about what the human factor is here? It's also very good at being a first draft maker. It helps you get started, breaks that creative barrier, and helps you then refine those ideas through a system of like iteration and confirmation. So you're going to be iterating, which is basically little versions along the way until you get to the right version. And then you have confirmation that, yep, this is now the right kind of thing. It's also bloody good at spotting patterns, identifying a bunch of insights and information that you might have missed because you're in a rush to sort of proofread over something, or you might miss, important links between one area and another. It will find those. So you can ask the question of, hey, what have I missed in here that is a pattern that I should attempt to draw a connection between? So if people feel replaced, naturally they're going to resist. But if people feel supported in this, they may experiment. I did this workshop earlier that I was talking about where we gave people room to use Canva to make a video of their own. They got given like 2 minutes of here's how to get started, here's the tools, go and make your own. And they had fun with it. And they said, I'm much more likely to do this now because they felt like if they did something and it wasn't perfect, there was somehow something wrong with them. But we said, no, no, no. Nothing's ever perfect. Let me do one now. You'll see how imperfect that is. And here's a perfect one that I did, but this is the steps I took to get to that perfection. If they feel replaced, they will resist the change. If they feel supported, they will then go and play with it. They'll experiment. They'll find the uses. You finding the uses for them is never going to work. You need to introduce them to what you're trying to do, look at what the outcomes they want to get, and then they will play and find their own way to get there. There's no prescribed way to use these things. So then there's the influence, right? We don't want to come in as the big authority over and say, I am the AI person, you must do this. What we need to do is be an advocate that doesn't make decisions. And this is really hard. I know it from being a chair on a board, is that I don't have power. What I have is influence. What you're doing is influencing sideways across your teams and upwards to your management as well, which means you need to speak the language that people are using in their workplaces right now. So talk about risk, talk about efficiency, talk about capability if that's what they're looking at. For IT people, they're talking about risk. The people in the business, they'll talk about efficiency or capability raising. Then show how what you're trying to introduce aligns with that. Position these improvements as very supportive of what they're doing right now, not trying to disrupt or replace what they're doing now. And sell that better work. Focus on the outcomes, not the tools. What we tend to do is go, I want to introduce ChatGPT. I want to introduce Claude. I want to introduce Copilot, rather than going, well, what are we actually trying to do here? Your job isn't to sell AI or any particular one tool. Your job is to sell a better outcome for those team members. Just think about that, right? You will tend to go in there with a tool that you think is brilliant. That's not your job. Your job is not to introduce a tool. Your job is to identify what better work can be done. And then you go back and look at the tools that may be able to do that. There may not be one single tool that people are using, and maybe many tools. Or your organization may say, look, you will have one tool and we will pay for it. Just be ready to don't get married to any one particular tool. It doesn't matter whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Claude, or Grok, or Gemini, or Copilot. When you get married to a tool, you're not focusing on what you want the work outcome to be. You're focusing on compliance. And that's not the place you start from. It's a check on a set of boxes that you will tick, but it's not the outcome. Now, what we do To get people on board is to demonstrate what the value is to their work, not hypothetical situations. You might save 6 weeks of work on this. Oh, you will not have to go and do another photo shoot ever again. Pilot tests really beat proposals. What we tend to do as advocates, we want to build a proposal and put in a slide deck and present it to the company and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Let's go. And they go, yes or no. What we need to do to get people on board is basically to do a pilot test. And that's usually with maybe one person in a team who will become the most likely person to pass on that advocacy. So, yeah, when we get too abstract about what the benefits are, people just find that they can't relate to it, or perhaps they think that it's not really possible. They get very skeptical. But what we do when we create a little pilot test of maybe one person in a team or one team in a group is we get small wins, little wins. We get people finding things that they can make happen without us going, here's how to do it. Here's the must do way. We find that they will find the best way that works for them. And then we can take the learnings from that small group and start rolling it out to everyone else. That way, you've got a way more likely scenario to get adoption rather than when you go, here's our AI training, come for a half day training, and after that, go forward. That doesn't work. It doesn't work anywhere. In fact, it's failing miserably. Microsoft themselves found that when they enforced and laid down the law and said, you will use Copilot to increase your efficiency, for the first 2 weeks, it looked great. They were taking it on and experimenting. But because there was no structure to that, they didn't do any pilot tests. They just said everyone now uses this. After 2 weeks, the adoption just completely collapsed, and they've had to rethink the way they do this. And this kind of reflects a lot of the product development at Microsoft as well. What you want to demonstrate is time saved on something real that they do. So whether it's clearing their inbox or writing an email or writing a proposal or making a website, something that they already do that you can demonstrate a time saving, but not just time saving. Time saving and fast has always been what we've sold AI on, but its best feature is not time saved, it's quality improvement. So when that first draft comes out, it's so much better than what you would have done in the first draft that it really does speed you up. So we get the speed result. Yeah, sure. But there's some things I do, like writing my newsletter, which used to take me about 2 hours, now will take me almost the same using AI. But the quality of the information in there is way, way higher because it's drawing back on previous newsletters I've written rather than just me going, here's what I experienced this week. It's drawing together a narrative and an arc over a long period of time, something that I can't do because, quite frankly, it's out of my memory now. Or what we can do is demonstrate where there's a reduced effort that has to be put in, a reduced brain strain that we have to go to. So what's a real task that they do now that you can show an improvement in time saved or an improvement in quality or something which is going to take less brain strain of them to do it? This is how we introduce tools rather than trying to go, everyone use it. And one simple rule could be for this is show one workflow at a time for one kind of person to give them one result. Don't sit down in a 1 hour webinar and try to show everybody everything that can be done because you can guarantee they'll come out of the webinar going, this is amazing, this is amazing. They'll open up the tool after the webinar, they'll try to do it themselves, they'll fail at it, they won't be able to do it, and they will not look at it again. So show them just one thing at a time that they do on a regular basis that gives them some kind of better result than what they would do on their own. Time saved, quality improvement, or reduced brain strain, right? The right use cases for choosing the ones to demonstrate to people who are a little bit sensitive to this topic are things that are very low risk, right? They're not going to be things that are going to be, massive business critical things, things that are very high repetition. So if they have to create these updated social media posts every few hours, what can they do to decrease the amount of brain strain on that, but also increase the quality and reduce the time spent? Show clear ownership and defined accountability around what they're doing. What I mean by there is that you still have ownership over this, even though AI might be doing a lot of the heavy lifting, you still have control of it. That's what ownership is. It's a little bit of control. If I own it, I have some control over it, and I'm therefore accountable for it. So a lot of people think, oh, well, the AI told me that, therefore, it's not my fault that it got it wrong. It kind of is. There's got to be some kind of accountability. This might sound like a red flag to someone, but it's actually not. What it is, it helps them to trust it more and to invest more into it because they say, oh, well, just like I would have accountability now, I still have accountability for this. Oh, good. So my responsibilities haven't changed. I've got a new tool that might help me get to that point quicker. Great, let's go. What you want to do is avoid very early on any sort of sensitive data or anything confidential or personally identifying information. Any final decision making without human review. This is where people will come up with those, brainstorming or trying to look for ideas with AI and discussing it with them, but not then reviewing it with a person afterwards. You want to try and avoid that kind of thing, saying, yeah, so it's like, just do this and do this and do this and do this, and voila, you've got your decision. No, we don't want to do that. Don't remove the humans from the picture. Just show how humans can work better and avoid anything you can't explain simply. If creating an AI video in VO3 or Runway or Sora or something like that is really complicated and requires great big long prompting and changing prompts and editing prompts, then don't teach that. Teach something that's low risk, that they do all the time, that they have clear ownership and defined accountability about, because they'll have buy-in. It's something that relates to them. It's not some kind of weird AI, look what I can do thing. That's the problem with automation at the moment. People are teaching automation for for businesses that are nothing like the business they have. And they wonder why no one takes on automation. Well, that's the problem with agentic AI, is that the examples we're being shown have nothing to do with our lives or nothing to do with our work or our businesses, but they are like best case scenarios, like use cases that we can't relate to. Because I might own a cafe, but none of you do. So you're probably not going to see any point in automating something in a cafe, whereas it might actually be really good for me, but it's absolutely irrelevant to you. So you've got to get in there as an advocate in your workplace and make sure you're doing things in AI that are very clearly related to what people are doing in that team. So what you're doing, you're not investing in tools, at least not at first. You're investing in ability, capability. There's always a hidden failure point where you give people access without guidance and they get sort of chaos and resistance and fighting, and some people taking on, some people refusing to. You get people who are yelling about ethics and people who are yelling about it's stealing artists and all that. We don't want that. Capability means prompt literacy, critical thinking, and knowing when to use it and when not to use these AI tools. By prompt literacy, what we mean is how can people better prompt their tools to get an outcome they want? And also how to look at those outputs and critically think through them to make sure they're true, accurate, on brand, safe, and not going to cause any sort of ethical or security concerns. So the smart organizations are asking, what tool do we use? They're going, what do our people need to feel confident and safe using this? Not what tool is their favorite, because they'll all say chat GPT, right? But it's what do our people need to feel confident and safe using whatever tool we're going to use. Compliance is not the enemy of AI. I know it sounds like sometimes that there's a war between the IT security people and people who are advocating for AI. Now, what you do, you go in early with compliance, you partner with them to do this. So if your job in your particular organization is to introduce AI to the team, then you need to get in with the compliance people early, because yes, they are brake pushers. They're going to push back on you. But what you do, you involve them before the rollout so they know what the potential problems may be, and then co-design the guardrails around that, rather than them coming in and doing a surprise audit and say, you're using that, you shouldn't be using that, you're so bad, you're going to be fired. What it does is that the chaos of just rolling out everything will kill the adoption in people who feel fearful about it. But when you co-design the guardrails, you get compliance that is then able to scale. Not compliance that shuts down, but compliance that allows your advocacy, your tool, or whatever it is you're introducing, and probably a process of use to roll out so much smoothly. Because if the compliance people like it, you're going to get widespread adoption. You're going to be able to scale it. They'll have the systems and the processes to roll that out to everyone. So what good AI advocacy really looks like really is very clear values and principles, be flexible on your tools, train before you enforce, open conversations up instead of encouraging secret usage. We see that originally in universities where it's like, well, look, you're not supposed to use ChatGPT, but they haven't said anything about Claude yet. So maybe use that, which was all the wrong advice that was being given. Look for cultural signals from within your team and your organization. Encourage people to play, to explore, to be curious. Encourage them to make mistakes and be safe feeling that they can make mistakes, because that's all part of learning. We didn't instantly walk out of the womb, did we? We had to fall over, we had to stumble, we had to cry, we had to hurt our knees. Eventually we learned how to walk. And understand that it's not just their responsibility to do this, it's also the organizations. So there needs to be some kind of ongoing support, particularly in those early adopters and early users and pilot groups, that you will help them to roll this thing out properly and correctly. The real question to take back to work is like not about, hey, should we allow AI or ban it? It's really about how do we help our people use AI responsibly, openly, and use it well. The future isn't locked down and the future is not chaos. It's negotiated by you as the advocate. It's then tested in small groups, and it always has to have some kind of human outcome. And that human outcome is, remember, is it a better quality output? Is it a faster output? Or is it something which is a combination of both that's allowing you to get something done quicker? I put together a bit of a follow-up guide for you, which has got all these things. Rather than send you a bunch of slides, I've made an interactive guide for you at this address. You can put your phone up and record, get this on your phone and be able to keep it there as a home screen, as an app on your phone if you ever need to refer back to it. You also got an option to be able to click there to book some time with me to talk about this more if it's something which you feel like is really valuable for your organization. We'll just go to that address, learn.clickstarter.com.au, and then the rest of that URL